Hi there, my name's Rory from 10losttribes.com, a website blog that talks all about the regathering of Israel and faith, Israel and Judah from Babylon in the end times, Babylon, America. And we'll talk about that more as we proceed through this talk, and from all the other Babylons that the lost tribes are scattered in. Many people don't understand that there are the lost tribes of Israel, and they're amongst the once Christian nations of the world. So this series is titled Children Breaking Out of Babylon, and this is the second in the series. So today I want to talk about the Levites, how they are taken as firstborn. And Numbers chapter 3, we see that the firstborn were supposed to be the priests of the family. But instead of taking one of the firstborn from each family of Israel, the Lord decided to take an entire tribe just for himself, the tribe of Levi. So the Levites were taken in exchange for the firstborn of every household of all the different tribes, and we see that in Numbers chapter 3. Now, one of the tasks of the Levites was to be gatekeepers on the walls of the temple. So there, and another group of Levites were priests. They're the descendants of Aaron, and they minister within the walls of the temple itself. Now, just as the Levites were taken as firstborn from Israel, so in the end times, God is going to regather or gather to himself a group of individuals, 144,000 from each of the tribes. So it's kind of like what happened with the Levites, and it's related to the firstborn. In fact, the 144,000 are firstfruits, and the term firstfruits and firstborn are interchangeable in this context. They are God's firstborn. Now there are two groups of 144,000, and I've talked about that before, and I'll talk about it in more detail and go verse by verse, giving examples of why and wherefore. The first group of 144,000 are related to the gates, and we're going to look at that today. So I've got a title here, 144,000 barley gates, whirlwind. There's a relationship between all of these words. They all have the word shah as the base of, or sha'ar as the base root of the meaning of these nouns. But I'm going to describe why these are related to the 144,000. In Psalm 58 verse 9 it says, "Before your pots can feel the thorns, he shall take away them as with a whirlwind, both living and in his wrath." There's quite a few scriptures or verses in the Bible that talk about the whirlwind and the Lord taking away the wicked quickly in a whirlwind. And I don't think people really understand what that is. In fact, I've had some help by certain individuals to help me to understand this. I believe that this whirlwind is supernatural. It's a sudden shift, a sudden change. There's a wonderful website called, or blog called Change is Coming, or Change is Coming Soon. And it talks all about this shift change. There's going to be an amazing change when people have a reversal of fortune. So those that are on the top of the pyramid are at the bottom, and those that are at the bottom are at the top. God is going to deal with the wicked that are entrenched in power when he brings his whirlwind to pass. Now, related to this word sha'ar, which is related to gates, barley and whirlwind, it says in Luke 21:28, "And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh." Now this expression, lift up your heads, is really, really important. And when heads were lifted up, like in the book of Numbers, it talks about them counting the children of Israel, and they counted each tribe in the wilderness at the beginning of the wilderness journey and at the end. Now in Hebrew it says they lifted up their heads. You lift up heads when you're counting your men for war. Also, there is a verse that talks about lifting up of heads, and we're going to look at that next, because Yeshua may be alluding to this, because the context of Luke 21 is all about the end times, all about the tribulation. It says in Psalm 24 verse 7, lift up your heads, O you gates, and be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. And there's that word sha'ar, or sha'arim is plural, se'u sha'arim rashachem. So lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lifted up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory, the Melech HaKavod, shall come in, the Melech HaKavod. And who is the King of glory? Well, we know who he is. It's Yeshua. So when Yeshua said, lift up your heads, was he alluding to this verse? In Isaiah 60 verse 1, we read, arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. Kumi ori, ki va orek, ukavod Yahweh elech, zarach. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Now this is only a few verses after Isaiah in chapter 59 is saying, when the enemy comes in like a flood, the battle belongs to the Lord, and he'll raise up a standard against it. Well, he's raising up that standard, and he's raising up that standard in his people, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. And he's going to come, that glory is going to come through the gates. Those gates lift up their heads. Now gates don't have heads, but people do. So let's read on. In 2 Chronicles chapter 23 verse 19 it says, and he set the porters at the gates of the house of the Lord, that's the temple, that none which was unclean in anything should enter in. So these people are guarding. So the Levites were the porters, they were the gatekeepers. Now it just so happens that the word for porter and the word for the gate, it's the same word, or the same root. The word for porter here is ha-shoarim, and the word for gates is sha'arei, that's plural, sha'ar is singular. So the gates are the porters are the gates when it comes to the Hebrew language. And so when Yeshua is saying, when you see all these things come to pass, lift up your heads, he's talking to a group of people that are gates in particular, and certainly everybody else by extension. There are people that are gatekeepers. Now in Revelation chapter 21 verse 21 it says, and the 12 gates were 12 pearls, every several gate was one pearl, and the street of the city was of pure gold, and it was transparent as glass. The important thing in this verse is that there were 12 gates. There are 12 tribes, and there are 12 gatekeepers on those gates. And just like there were Levites around the temple, so there will be the 144,000 on the walls. It says, on your walls, O Jerusalem, I've set watchmen. Now, there is the earthly Jerusalem, but there's also the heavenly Jerusalem, and the heavenly Jerusalem has watchmen. And we are part of that heavenly Jerusalem. We have come into the heavenly Jerusalem, Mount Zion, to the church of the firstborn. And that is in heaven, into an innumerable company of angels. So, in these end times, the Lord is going to wake up certain people that are gates. You know, each of our bodies is a temple, but actually some of us are gates. In fact, all of us are gates in some way, because we all have access to the Lord, but there are some people in particular that are gates. They are Sha'arim, gates. Now, in Revelation 21 verse 17 it says, he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. Now this is important, This is important stuff. We know that the wall is related to the watchman. It's related to those that stand guard at the gates. And there's 144 mentioned in terms of the measure of the wall, and it's the measure of a man. You see, the Bible's spiritual. Why is it saying a measure of man? Yes, it's a certain cubit, that's a certain human measurement, and that is of the angel. It's talking more than about measurements. It's saying that the walls are related to the 144,000. They're related to man and angel. The 144,000 are going to have supernatural abilities, and they're going to be watching over not just an earthly temple, but the heavenly Mount Zion, or the heavenly Jerusalem, which is ultimately God's people. They're going to be looking after the bride here on earth. They're going to be shepherding God's people in a time of trial. And how do we derive all of this? From the word sha'ar, which was related to gates and the whirlwind, and also to barley. The word barley is sha'arim. And so the gatekeepers are going to be used to protect Zion from invaders, to protect them as they are moving. The Levites moved the tabernacle when they were on a journey through the wilderness. And when it's time for the church to head off to the wilderness, or Zion, the believing remnant of Jacob, the 144,000 are going to be lifting up the items, the people. They're going to be bringing them on eagle's wings. In 2 Kings chapter 7 verse 1 we read, Then Elisha said, Hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, Tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. Now people, when they read through historical books like Kings, they just go tra-la-la-la, a whole lot of details. All of these details are prophetic. The barley is related to the gate. I've got the words in Hebrew there. Sa'orim for barley and sha'ar for gate. Now, some people may quibble that the roots are slightly different. It's the same spelling, sha'ar or sa'ar, a shin or a sin. And there's a relationship between these two, and that I will show in the next slide. Then the Lord, on whose hand is actually verse 2, not verse 1, whoopsie daisy, whose hand the king leaned, answered the man of God and said, Behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof. Now this term, windows of heaven, it seems really incongruous, and why has he said such a strange thing? Well, this is prophetic. Barley is Aviv, becomes ready for harvest in the first month, in Nisan, when Passover begins, and that goes on through the second month and on into the wheat harvest of Pentecost. So when he's talking about the windows of heaven, he's giving us a clue about something. Now, when the flood came, it came in the second month. That's the barley harvest. The barley harvest begins at Passover, but it's at the wave sheaf, but it's continuing through here into the second month. So 2 Kings is giving us a clue that what this is talking about is actually prophecy for the end times, that the windows of heaven are going to be open. There's going to be a time of famine at that time, and I believe that's next year. We'll see. And in that time, the barley is going to be available for God's people that are trusting, but it's not going to come to those that are not believing. And it's going to be sold for a shekel at the gate. And who are the gates? The 144,000. Behold, thou shalt see this with thine eyes, but thou shalt not eat thereof. God is going to protect those amongst his people that are believing, not those that are unbelieving. So in this diagram, I have the Passover next year, and I'm looking at that intently because I believe that that is related to the 144,000 being raised up in glory. But before that time period, they may actually be ministering. And I've had various ideas of when this is going to happen. Sometimes I thought the sealing was at the end and then at the beginning, and Currently, I believe that this September, the 144,000 may be sealed. Then again, I've been wrong before, so we'll see. I believe big things are about to break forth on the world. So I'm rushing to get this in. Then we have a time of darkness. Now, it might not be the first one, but there's going to be a time when Satan and his angels fall from heaven. I believe it's in this period here, during second Passover. And that's when the second Exodus is occurring. That's when the woman is making her escape from the dragon. And then we have Pentecost, which I believe is the general resurrection, but also when the 144,000 kids are raised up. That's when the woman gives birth to her children. She gives birth to two groups, the man-child and then the children. Read Isaiah 66 verses 7 to 8 for that. And have a look at my companion video series on the bride that I'm putting together as well. So thanks very much. It's called The Ascent of the Bride. So thanks very much. It's all about this here, the ark, which is all about the bride. So thanks very much for your time. I hope that blesses you. And if you want to know more, have a look at my website, 10losttribes.com. It's very wordy. It's very big articles. If you don't have time, I understand. Anyway, God bless and shalom.